So now I can move on to the thing we're going to go in depth and talk about the really horrible bill. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. All right. This one is, I just wrote an op-ed. I hope the Denver Post will print it, but I actually called for a recall on any legislator who votes for this thing. It is horrible, horrible, horrible. This is House Bill 1190 called Affordable Housing First Right of Refusal. What it essentially says is that if you have a qualifying property, which is defined as a property within the urban area, 5 or more units, or in rural, 3 or more units, you as a property owner, when you go to sell this, you have to give 14-day notice to the government that you're going to sell it. They get the first right to initiate purchase. Doesn't guarantee anything, but they're staking a claim saying we're going to get first right to buy the property. So this is a local government, like a city, a town, or a county. The property owner, so when they say, okay, hubby, let's sell the property. First thing you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to, within 14 days, let the local governments know that you're selling the property with intent. That's called a triggering event. That might mean that you contacted real estate agent, said, I want to list this. That's your triggering event. You got 14 days now. There's some other qualifications or types of triggering events. If you list it on Craigslist, or you put a for sale sign in your front yard, or you talk, trial lawyers are going to have a fun day with this one. As soon as you have that triggering event, you give the notice to the government. They got 14 days to respond whether they're interested or not. If they are interested, then they have 60 days. Again, they're the only player in this game right now. Okay, other buyers, forget about it, really. You got 60 days where the government is going to come back to make an offer. And in that original notice you gave them, in the 14-day, you had said, basically, here's the price, here's the terms. So this is where it's really not clear within the bill, the mechanics of how that'll work, because you haven't gotten bids from other people. So how can you figure out what is an economically fair, there's a word for it they've got in the bill, comparable bid? You haven't really gotten another bid, but the government gets to bid off what you told them in 14 days. But 14 days where you've given them notice, 60 days where they have the right to come back with an offer. Then they have 120 days to do the financing, get the inspections done, and do what's necessary to close. By the time you add in the 14 days, the 60-day period, the 120-day period, you are now at over 200 days where you as a property owner are tied up without really any guarantee that the deal is going to go through. What if the financing fell through on, let's say, day 180? You've now been tied up for 6 months. The entire market can change. On top of that, the government, you as a property owner are prohibited from working with a third party in any type of a deal that would make it cost prohibitive for the government to buy it. So you've essentially put a cap on the property. So we talked earlier about a rent on property rental. This bill, 1190, is putting a cap on any of these qualifying properties where the government's interested, a cap on the sales amount if it makes it cost prohibitive for the government. The bill, I mean, I'm trying to find my notes. There's even more things that are wrong with this thing. Do you have any questions? You look like you want to ask something.
No, I mean, it's just egregious. It's hard to even wrap my head around the idea that the legislators in our state capital think that this is a good idea. That, I mean, it makes sense that they want to take housing away from the private market. They want to take housing away from private property owners to turn it into government housing. I mean, it's just a Soviet style type of scheme. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And thinking about the financing, thinking about this idea that, 6 months down the line, your property's tied up, most people don't most people don't have that kind of time just to sit on a property on the market, especially in Colorado's hot real estate market, just to have something sitting there waiting for these bureaucrats to file and shuffle paperwork to decide what they're going to do, how much they're going to offer you, and how little control you'd have as a property owner over what these governments want to do to your property. I mean, to your investment.
There are multiple articles out there about this bill 1190 and how horrible it is, and plenty of lobbyists lined up on both sides. But Joshua Sharf did hit on he had done a piece on it, and there was a good mention of a part of the problem that hadn't been brought up by others, and that is with the tax rules that are out there. You have a certain amount of time that if you're going to sell a property to be able to deal with the um, tax issues that you got to deal with when you're dealing in capital gains. And there's problems there associated with this because there's most people, when you're in the midst of selling something, a lot of people selling something, you're looking at something else to buy. When you're held on that one process by government, and I should mention another factor, and it's called the I'm sorry, there's another it's called tolling of periods. That's the name, sorry. There's a clause in 1190 that I mentioned. First of all, it could be tied up for over 200 days, but there's a clause about tolling of periods. What that says is if there is a delay that the government has no control over, it can go beyond 208 days. When you factor that in and how possible it is that the government could claim a delay because of factors outside of their control, I'm sure that you could imagine that could easily go longer. And it's one thing to think about the legislature that's down there, some legislators, some politicians being in favor of this, because frankly, some of them have no business being down at the state capitol. None of them. I mean, some of them, no business whatsoever. They should stay home. But there are lobbyists down there. And I want to bring this up because this is where you and I are actually part of our tax money. Part of our tax money is going to support this bill. The list of lobbyists, and you can, for people who are watching this, if you don't know how to figure out how to look up what lobbyists are opposing or supporting or monitoring a bill, you can go to the Secretary of State's website and go under, just search lobbyists and you'll find it. And you can search by a bill number. And so if you just plug in House Bill 23-1190, you're going to find the list of organizations, long list, supporting and opposing this. So back to our tax dollars. Here's a sample list of public entities using public money to pay a lobbyist to go down to the Capitol, talk to legislators, and push them and cajole them and sweeten them up to pass House Bill 1190. We've got the Colorado Municipal League to start with. Why am I offended by this? To start with, my city of Lakewood, we pay $90,000 a year. I'm sorry, I'm getting upset. $90,000 a year in taxpayer money in dues to Colorado Municipal League each year. Colorado Municipal League is down there pushing passage of this bill. If I live in Adams County people should know their Board of County Commissioners is paying a lobbyist in one way or another, whether it's staff member or a private organization, paying money to somebody to push this bill and passage of it. Arapahoe County, your county commissioners apparently support this bill. They have a lobbyist supporting it. City and County of Broomfield. Moving on to some private organizations. This Colorado Center of Law and Policy, the counties and commissioners acting together, which is a version of Colorado counties, but it's the oh, I'd call it more like the statist version of it, down there. We've got Elevation Community Land Trust supporting this. Look up their ties and you'll get some really weird spider web ties thing going on. The League of Women Voters. If there's a number one reason to never, ever support the League of Women Voters or to get on their board and overturn them, it would be an example like this. They are promoting absolute property theft with House Bill 1190. And that's the League of Women Voters who wants to earn trust from voters and guide them on any decision matter at the ballot box. Forget it. Never trust the League of Women Voters. I know I'm ranting now. I'm really going off. I'm enjoying this in one way. Now let's talk about lobbyists who are opposing 1190. We got Colorado Competitive Council, Colorado Farm Bureau, City of Colorado Springs, Colorado Bar Association. Surprised because they're going to make a lot of money off some of these things in the legislation that's because these bills are so poorly written. Colorado Concern Business Organization, Denver Metro Chamber, Downtown Denver Partnership, El Paso County. So I applaud the government bodies that are down there opposing this. The bill is terrible. I think I've probably missed something, but I described it as much as we can probably take because we've got to talk about some other bad things that are going on.